The White House Coronavirus Task Force held its first briefing in more than 4 months Thursday. The task force acknowledged the worsening state of the pandemic in the U.S. But Vice President Mike Pence, the official head of the task force, focused on the optimism around vaccine development.
I must tell you, having received my latest briefing today over at FEMA from Operation Warp Speed, I think every American can be proud of the fact that we have a plan in place. That the moment that the FDA concludes that that vaccine is safe and effective, we have a system in place to begin within 24 hours shipping that vaccines to hospitals, healthcare facilities, and 24 hours after that, literally injecting that vaccine into Americans.
Immunotherapy researcher and Dr. Leo Nisula joins me now to talk about what we heard from the White House today. Dr. Nisula, thank you very much for being with us. So many people interested, and when you hear a time frame like that, it sounds like positive news. But when the vice president said that those vaccine injections will begin within 48 hours of FDA emergency approval, does that mean, doctor, that it will be available to the general public that quickly?
Hello, Elena. Thank you for having me. And I think that's an important point. Vaccines typically require years of research and testing before reaching the clinic, before reaching people in the community. But we have a very dedicated amount of scientists and drug developers out there trying to produce a safe and effective coronavirus vaccine. And I think I'm with Dr. Fauci there. He was happy about it. I'm very thrilled to have good news about Pfizer's and Moderna's vaccine as well.
And with respect, though, I guess, Doctor, the question is on the time frame. I just want to give people the appropriate context here. That's a different, as I understand it, distribution to those various sites around the country is not the same thing as being widely available to Americans who, say, are not necessarily on the front lines like healthcare workers would be.
That's right. We also have to see the data. We've only learned from press release. And you know that we need to see the documents that actually are going to show not only the efficacy of those vaccines, but the details on the study population, and especially in which relates to the most vulnerable groups like the elderly. Defeating this awful disease is going to take time and a great amount of effort. But we have a logistical nightmare there of trying to ship those vaccines, deliver them to the clinics, and it's going to require a lot of coordination between teams on every state across the country.
So, Doctor, we are seeing videos from across the country showing long lines for people getting coronavirus tests. So presumably they can gather for Thanksgiving next week. But what is your advice, Doctor, to those with Thanksgiving plans right now?
Yeah, and I think the current COVID-19 statistics in the United States are shocking. We have far exceeded 100,000 new cases a day, with deaths nearing an average of 1,000 deaths a day. The U.S. have recorded over 250,000 new coronavirus deaths, and the CDC guidance is for folks to not travel during Thanksgiving, and that will help us actually mitigate the spread of COVID, but that's not enough. Let's not forget that there are over 79,000 Americans hospitalized with COVID. Over 15,000 are in the ICU, and almost 4,000 of patients in the U.S. are currently requiring a ventilator. We don't want to do that. Things are not looking good. And I'm concerned that holiday season coming up, that if we do not flatten the infection curve once again, we will see an overload in the healthcare system.
Well, time really is of the essence here as we hopefully inch closer to an available vaccine. In the meantime, what efforts, Doctor, do you want to see from current government officials in their response?
Well, we need ample testing. And by that, I mean folks at home should be able to order those tests. This week, the FDA approved the first at-home test, but it's requiring doctors to prescribe them. We do not have time for gatekeeping tests. We need to stop coronavirus outbreaks, and we can do so by massive testing. You see, if every American took a coronavirus test at home, we would be able to figure out who is contagious. We would be able to figure out who is sick. People who have tested positive would stay home for those 2 weeks of isolation, while the rest of us, more or less, try to go about our lives. we still need to wear masks. We still need to practice social distancing, but we need to whoever is in charge of the COVID task force today, to fund companies that are developing and manufacturing those tests. You see, in my opinion, cheap and over-the-counter tests are crucial to identifying outbreaks. And we've been saying that cluster control is very important, especially because in the United States, we don't have contact tracing. So I think massive, ample testing at home, it's necessary. And I would hope that the FDA would make that available for everyone at home without gatekeeping the tests via a doctor's order.
Well, these numbers that we are seeing are so disturbing. Doctor, how do you see the next few months going if the current trends continue to hold as they are?
That's right. Things are not looking pretty. And during a pandemic, I want folks at home to understand every day you have a choice. You either wait for a vaccine and you take precautions, you wear a mask and you avoid indoors and avoid gatherings, or you expose yourself to the virus. So eventually, if you keep exposing yourself to the virus, you will get sick. It will catch up with you. And likely, you're not going to be able to wait for the vaccine safe, healthy at home. So for folks at home, I would urge, do not host a Thanksgiving party. Think about the joy of celebrating in person with your loved ones once this is all over. We need to be alive and healthy for that.
Absolutely, really critical advice. Dr. Leo Nisola, doctor, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.